Dr. Hassan Fatih, respected author and architect, has spent his lifetime advocating the use of adobe for housing of the world's poor. Dr. Fatih argues that since antiquity, man has built out of the materials offered by the landscape, but that with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, the inherited techniques and perfected knowledge of creating with handmade tools were wiped out, lost, and are now forgotten. In September of 1980, Dr. Fatih came to the United States with 2 Nubian masons to roof a building with sun-dried adobes. The remarkable part of this nearly lost art is that this is accomplished without centering or temporary form support. One of these roofing techniques, the adobe barrel vault, is the subject of this program. Dr. Fatih demonstrates through the simple use of a piece of plywood and a length of chain how the proper curve can be defined.
Because I would like to show that you have to hang this chain, how to hang the chain. This template has been already cut out beforehand. Before it was just, before forming the curvature, you have to have the span of your vault here is 3 meters. We put nails, one here and one there, and one in the middle. And to put this end horizontal, perfectly horizontal. And then from the middle line you have this radius here, the rise of the vault. If this were 3 meter span, the rise of the vault would be 1 meter 65 centimeters. Because if it were the radius circular, it would exert some lateral thrust on the walls, side walls. But if you raise by just 15 centimeters, it will bring the end here into, it would reduce the lateral thrust here, because this will be put on the wall, because here, this chain and this curvature, which we call the catenary, the form of the catenary curve, every link is pulling onto the other. And it is working entirely in tension. And if you reverse it upside down, then, or rather down, up, it will be working entirely under compression. And that way we can make that the mud brick adobe could be used for roofing, because the form of the vault is, if you gave it the shape of this catenary form, working under compression, adobe can take compression but doesn't take tension nor bending. And that way we have solved the problem of roofing for the great numbers, because to build a wall is easy for everybody. To make bricks, rammed earth, whatever it is, stone, but usually the peasants are defeated by the roofing, because it needs materials that take bending and tension, which the mud brick doesn't take. It needs wood at least, or rather where there is no wood, there will be a problem. And it needs concrete or steel or anything expensive, which is beyond the means of the people, of the poor people. But if you can find means of using the same adobe, علاء الدين بنعمل
أنا بتكلم معهم عشان البنية.
It's fantastic. If you can make your roof by, giving not by the strength of the material that you have, what do you call it, the timber or concrete, steel, but give the strength by the form, the geometrical form, which this is the catenary that we have said. And that way, how can we apply it in the building to make sure that the thing we have to have recourse to this kind of template to make sure that the curve would be correct, because it is not everybody. By tradition, the masons used to know this by intuition. But we have to do it scientifically, and we have to do it to everybody. It took the trainee 3 years to draw this curve. And by this very small idea of a template, they can immediately have it rightly done and scientifically done. And this is our role, I mean, to help the people to make, I mean, the things correctly with great simplicity, no complication. So here now we have the chain hanging on the two ends here, and the nail down here would give me the rise, and we raise the chain, pull it in and up and down until it comes to join, to be tangential to the 3 points, the 2 points on the top and the apex here. And then we cut, this was in a board, you cut it by the saw and then bring it, put it against the end wall, as we say. I'm not correct. Would you kindly tell the gentleman here to give to I said before, where is my friend Owen? Warren. No. I have drawn here.
You want this down? Warren. Warren.
هي شو انا همسكها بالتحت نزلوها تحت كلها هنوصها ونعملها مظبوطه
الرحلات هي in the Ramada there.
After the proper curve has been drawn in mud, the vault begins. The first brick is stood on end and tapped firmly into the mortar. With some additional mortar and adobe rubble, a little wedge-shaped packing is placed against the foot of this brick so that the next course will lean slightly toward the end wall. In order to break the line of the joints between the bricks, the second course is started with a half brick. In this way, the mason gradually builds the inclined courses out, each one rising a little higher on the outline of the arch, till the two curved lines of adobes on either side meet at the top. When the first ring is complete, the vault is 1 brick thick at the top and 7 bricks thick at its base.
I think the best thing to do is slide all the way back and lay it down one corner at a time, yeah. On the board, yeah. And then the welding came, it just allowed for that, just mark the 2 lines up. And now we just make it for a solid line. Because I saw him, he went over, got both lines and it just matched up perfectly. Slid it back on here. We rubbed the teeth out of the way. What does that mean? Yeah, it's like just like that. That's perfect. Now I can get up here. $1 million. Green, right? It's 5 minutes before it closes.
So if we build the courses like we are going to see right now on an inclined plane off the vertical against an end wall like this, then and they put the bricks end to end, you will see later that how they can manage to build the vault with no centering, right out in space, like modeling. Two masons can put the roof on a room 3 meters like this by 4 meters in 1 day and a half, and you have your room already covered. If it were to be in concrete, it would need at least 15 days for the concrete to set down, and I don't know, it would be very complicated for the cost, for the materials, for this and that, and also for the time. But this is straight away, it is like modeling out in space.
The size and manufacture of the adobes are critical in the construction of the vault. A small, lightweight brick, 10 inches by 6 inches by 2 inches thick, is specified. Generous quantities of straw are added to the adobe mix to further decrease the weight. During manufacture, 2 parallel grooves are drawn with fingers in the wet adobe. These grooves provide a suction and keying action when the adobes are tapped into the mortar. The lightweight block with the finger grooves help keep the brick from sliding while each ring is complete.
I'll get one photograph in this corner while he's doing this. Okay. Like that, yeah. Yeah.
Notice that as each adobe is trimmed and put into place, no mud mortar is put between the ends of the brick in each course, known as the head joint. The ends of the bricks should touch one another dry with no mortar. This is done because mortar will shrink, and such shrinkage could seriously distort the catenary arch, causing the vault to collapse.
Dex drop hunting bricks down.
Thin ones, sir? Or those plants?
The blending and aging of mortar is another critical component of adobe vault building, for the mortar must be sticky enough to hold the adobes in place. Shallow pits are scraped into the ground and filled with a base soil, sand, clay, and enough straw so that when you pinch it, you have 7 pieces of straw between your fingers. This is brewed up soupy, covered, and left to ferment for 3 days.
This we used 3 shovels of sifted dirt, 1.5 of straight clay, 1 of sand, and 1 heaping shovel of cut up straw. And if you want, you can put some stabilizer on it, though I don't think that that's necessary.
Chopped straw is an important part of the blend. While it is aging in the pit, a biochemical reaction takes place, forming, among other things, lactic acid. This stabilizes and termite-proofs the mortar. Additionally, during fermentation, the clay is thoroughly hydrated. This process yields an exceptionally sticky substance. The mortar is put on thin like contact cement, into which the skillfully trimmed adobes can be tacked.
These some small, thin rocks. Yeah, but they're not thin. They're getting fat. Thin ones are running out.
Each ring of the vault is locked into place with keystones, hammered into the wedge formed at the top of each head joint. Minor adjustments of sagging adobes can be made in this fashion. Once locked into place, the structure is stable. No curing time is necessary. The adobes being used here were cast in a sand bed during manufacture. As a result, many of the adobes ended up thicker than the 2 inches prescribed, making them too heavy for proper vaulting. In order to continue work, the adobes had to be ground down to their proper size.
Well, you know, we are here after showing what we can get out of this adobe, and not only the adobe, but adobe and the vaulting are put in. This is a bedroom, a design of a bedroom with the design concept of what you call car. And this would be the middle part, door car, as it is written down here. And this is the E1. So I thought for the present bedroom, bedroom, to have the door car is the crash hole, as we said, and the alcove to be used for the bed to be tucked away from circulation, not like in these hotels when the bed is put in the middle of the room, taking all the space, and we knock our knees every time we move around. It will be tucked away and will be away from the draft. So this is an arrangement which suited the car principle, design concept, suited the bedroom, to the present bedroom. Because this darka and car, and as I told you, these were used for the palaces, but they are used also. There is no difference in Islamic architecture, in Arab architecture, between the palace and the humble house. You have the darka, only this is in mud brick and the other in stone and marble, and so on. Now, how would it fit in into when we come to the house? So there are an infinitude of combinations between these bedrooms, if you have them two on one line, and bidurka, the wardrobes, and the iwans for the bedding. Here you have a two and one here, and this is like a sort of a porch here, and you come in. So you see, and this is two in an L shape. I mean, this is better. This is to start with. We have three. You come into like a lobby here, and you have a bedroom here with the bed is here, and the wardrobe is there, and another bedroom here with the wardrobe and the alcove for the bed, and another room out here. Naturally, for your design and for in your designs, you will be taking care more of the climate, and you would like to have the sun and the passive, you call it passive energy. We have to fit in our architecture into the landscape. It will be a different landscape and different climate, so the architecture, we are hoping to produce a new architecture which is different from the Egyptian and different from the modern architecture, because this is the form that you have. There is a Sassanid dome, a vault, like we are having out here in the mosque, and this was also a vault here. All it is in adobe, and the entrance. So this is what came out for Egypt to suit the climate and the landscape. This is showing, I mean, opening towards, away from the lake. The lake is behind. And now, when we shall see facing the lake, here they would be facing the sun, because for the heat. This is the one you have seen behind right now, and it is open with loggias, this and that. Certainly, I mean, because it's open towards the lake. The lake is down here now with the, and these we have the loggias, etc. So this is how we can make to fit in our architecture to the environment with regard to the landscape, with regard to heat, I mean to say to the sun rays and to the orientation climate and so on. So
Some 40 years ago, Dr. Hassan Fatih discovered homes built both walls and roof of sun-dried adobes. He knew of the ancient technique of building vaults without forms, had attempted and failed to reconstruct the technique, and thought that knowledge of the art had disappeared. Dr. Fatih recorded this first encounter with vaulted roofs in his book, Architecture for the Poor. I realized I was looking at the living survivor of traditional Egyptian architecture, at a way of building that was a natural growth in the landscape. It was like a vision of architecture before the fall, before money, industry, greed, and snobbery had severed architecture from its true roots in nature.
Inshallah. Inshallah.